So we are going to be doing our first garment, but our second project. So our first garment is Simplicity 9050. It is a pair of pants, pretty cute. So our first step, our first video is going to be cutting out our fabric. So what we have already done is we've picked our size, so you should open up your pattern. You should pick out which view you want to do. I am doing view B, and you're going to open up the package and you'll find some instructions. And in the instructions, you'll see that on there, it's going to have it's going to have a list of all the pattern pieces that are included that you'll need. And so for view front AB, I need the pattern piece number 1. For pocket, it has front pocket A, backbeat, so it just lists each piece included. And then I need to go down here and I'm going to find which view is mine. And I can look at the chart and it says view B, pants B, and it says that I need to use pieces 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, and 9. So I've already found those pieces and I've cut them out to my size. And now I'm going to lay them out. Your pattern instructions give you a layout plan, and you can follow that or you can lay them out. So I'm going to lay them out, I'm going to pin them out, and we're going to cut it out. And once I cut it out, then we're going to mark it. So that's our plan. So let's do that. Now, we've already had a big lesson on grain line, and on each of these pieces, you'll see an arrow. So as that arrow should align to your grain line. So I have a nice piece, I'm just using some white muslin, so it's easy to see. And you can see this is my line. You can see the line on the pattern piece, and that line should align to the grain line of your fabric. My fabric is double layered, so there's 2 layers. I folded over selvage to selvage, so I've got 2 layers. So every time I cut a piece out, I'll get 2 pieces. So when I cut this piece, this is piece number 1, I'm gonna get 2 fronts. So my first pins that I'm putting in, I pin them on the arrow. So that arrow is parallel to the selvage. Then I'm going to pin in the corners. And remember how we did our first little activity when we learned how to do grain lines, and we learned how to pin out patterns, and it was a miniature half scale pattern. Well, now we're doing the same thing, only it's a larger piece. So you're gonna do it just like we did in that half scale. You start out by first pinning the arrow, grain line arrow first. Make sure that it's straight on grain. Then you're gonna pin all your corners, going through both layers. Then you will, if you have a long, like this long leg, I'm going to pin halfway down the leg. And then that one's done. Then I'm going to come down here and I'm going to pin this other leg. It's upside down, so it doesn't matter. I can pin it this way or I can pin it this way, whichever is going to save me the most fabric. So I might move this over just a little bit. Save some more fabric, make sure that's straight on grain. And I'm gonna just pin this whole thing And once it's pinned, I will come back and show you what that looks like. And sometimes it's nice, you know, you might want, instead of just starting to pin, you might want to just lay everything out and make sure it all fits before you start pinning, just to make sure that everything fits, although I know it's gonna fit because I have plenty of fabric here. So you know, you might wanna, what is this, the elastic, oh no, piece number 7 is elastic guide. You don't need to cut that. So I know that everything's gonna fit. So while I pin this, I'm gonna just, okay. So I've got everything pinned. And so before I cut it, I like to stand at the end of the table or the end and just make sure, take a glance at it, make sure everything is straight on grain. And it looks straight to me. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut it. And when I cut, I am going to pay attention to these notches. So these notches are these little triangle pieces. And when you get to a triangle piece, you want to try to cut them out. Sometimes they're single triangles and sometimes they're double. So when you get to one, so here's one, I'm gonna cut it out. And those are just indicators when I'm sewing, my triangle pieces will match another triangle piece, so I can match them and line up my pieces so that I know how to match and line the pieces up so that they will stitch together evenly. So I'm just gonna quickly cut these out, and then once they get cut out, we are going to go through each piece and mark them. So wherever there is a circle, you have to transfer those markings to the wrong side of the fabric. So you want to make sure you have all your notches, and if you forget a notch, you want to not take off the pattern piece before you put the notch back in somehow. You could just do a little clip into the seam allowance, or you could notch into the seam allowance by doing that V into the seam instead of out. So that works, that's fine. But you don't want to take your pattern piece off without putting some kind of indicator on there. And then we're going to go through and put all those, we're going to transfer all those markings. So I'm going to quickly cut all these out, and once we have those all cut out, then I'm going to come back and I'm going to show you how to transfer all those. Okay, so I've cut everything out now, and now it's time to mark it. And we're going to go through each piece, and I'm going to tell you how to mark each piece. So I'm going to start with piece number 4, the pocket. So you're going to take your scissors, and I just want you to clip in on that where it says fold line. You're just going to make a little clip on the fold line, just in only about a 1/4 inch, just a little clip, not very much. Clip it a little bit, done. Okay, the casing back on the wrong side, each of these dots, you're going to mark each circle. So take a pin, one of your pins that you used, and on the size that you cut, you're going to I'm using an erasable pen, and I'm marking each dot the size. Oh, you're only marking your size, and you're putting the pen through and putting a little dot right on the wrong side of the fabric. And if you are using a fabric that, like I'm using white muslin, and if your fabric is a dark color, you would use, like, say, white chalk, if you're using a, you know, you just need to make sure that you can see whatever mark you're making, and you want to make sure that it's temporary. You don't want it to be permanent. You want to make sure that it's going to come out. So that's that's piece number 6, casing back. So that one's done. Piece number 9 has no marks, so that one's done. I'm going to skip over number 1 because it has a lot of marks, so I'm going to wait for that one. My front pocket, piece number 8, has 2 marks, and it corresponds with like your size. You have to kind of figure out which mark is yours. So I'm gonna, and then you have to find the right side or the wrong side of your fabric. Sometimes you have to, you put your pin in where the dot is, and then I'm gonna open up the 2 layers of fabric and put my dot in between the 2 layers of fabric, because the wrong side of my fabric is facing each other. So that's the way that I did that. So I need to, there we go. That one's done. This is going quick. And so here's my casing front. These are marked. This is just a single piece, so I'm doing the back side of that single piece. Putting the pin in, marking it. Putting the pin in, marking it. And then this has a stitching line that I need to mark. So I'm gonna mark first my circles. Those are easy. And then my stitching line, I'm going to mark the top, and then I'm going to mark the bottom, and then I will take and what I'll do is I will draw I'll draw my line in between, and I'll do the same over here. So I'll mark the top, and then I'll mark the bottom where it has, you'll see on the pattern piece, there's like, it's a dashed line, and so I'm gonna just draw that line. So that's done, and I don't need to really mark the center front. If you want to, you could do a little clip there, but you have 2 notches, and when we get to sewing that, you'll be fine. Now on the back, you're going to, you have a dot here at the crotch, and that can be done on the wrong side, but you have a dot for your pocket. Now we don't put your pockets on the inside of your pants, you're gonna put them on the outside of your pants, so we're gonna mark those dots on the right side of your fabric. So don't put your markings on the inside. This time put them on the outside. So we're gonna put those on the outside, because when we place those pockets, we're gonna put those on the outside. Okay, so now we are down to our last piece, which looks complicated because there's so many markings on this. So let's break this down. We've got this big pocket. We've got the easiest, we have the crotch line here, so we're gonna mark that. I'm gonna tell you the truth, I never use that when I sew, but we'll mark it anyways because it's the right thing to do. So I'm doing view B. So I need to mark, I'm gonna mark this pocket here on the side, because that one is for all pockets. And then, so I need to read, it says view B, I need to mark this one up here. And then it has another stitching line where it says for view A. And so I know that I'm not doing view A, so I don't need to mark that one. If you are doing view A, you do need to mark that one. Easy to, no kidding. If you're doing it, you need to mark it. And then it has stitching line. So this is your placement line here. So where you would place it. I'm not going to trace it all out, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to just do a little mark where it should end here. And I'm going to do at the very top, I'm going to mark where it should end up here. So I place it straight on there. And then I'm going to, here where it's going to make its turn on the corner, I'm going to do a mark so I can get that corner to hit in the right place. So I could, you know, get my ruler out and match and draw straight lines to each of these. And again, because it's a pocket and it's on the right, I'm putting all these marks on the right side. But I don't want to mark up my fabric that much. So I'm just doing dots on all these corners for this pocket so that I can place my pocket in the right place. I'm not going to remove my whole piece, but I've made a mark where the pocket, each corner where the pocket should hit. And that should be enough for me to know how to place my pocket. And again, if you're doing A, you could mark this stitching line, but it's actually would be better to mark it after you place your pocket. That's going to be your stitching line, because I've done this pattern before. All right, so now everything is ready to be sewn in our next step in our next video. So see you then. Bye.